it right before, and now I screwed it up. Viglietta. Italian in the house. Woo woo. So he's a painter, and we've been friends for, oh my gosh, I guess like around 5 or 6 years now, Mike, right?
Yeah, you're one of the first
to Arizona.
Yep.
So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Michael Viglietta. I'm a Phoenix, an artist here in Phoenix, and I moved here to Phoenix about 3.5 years ago permanently. And my mom and my sister live in Chandler area, so I used to come here a lot to visit and stuff like that. I used to live in Los Angeles, and about 3.5 years ago, I wanted to change my career, stop working in the film business, which I used to work in film and television production, and to become a full-time artist. So I moved here to the Phoenix area to do that. You know, with my mom and my sister being here, and I went around the community here, and it seemed to be an up-and-coming arts community.
Well, you know what I think? I think you and I are in the Phoenix arts community, kind of like, and you and I have had this conversation before. It's kind of how Soho was before it was Soho in New York City right now. There's so much art happening in Phoenix. It's just insane. And you were in LA and I was in New York. And I find that I've made more art by 100 times more art since I've been in Phoenix than when I was in New York.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's partially because you're spending all your time being able to afford to live there.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't do what I wanted to do in Los Angeles just for financial reasons, because space is
absolutely.
Yeah, it's too expensive. I mean, I live downtown here, down on Grand Avenue, and my studio is actually right at the at Grand Art House at Grand Avenue, and I live right next door, so I'm able to sort of integrate my life and my art practice all the time. You know, it's like I'm living and I'm working, so it happens. I'm able to work whenever I want because I'm right there. The studio is literally right next door, which is something I could never do in Los Angeles. I could never find enough space to work.
Well, you know, the place that you live is like a renovated arts community, so you're surrounded by artists. It's really super awesome in the Grand area. So, why are you a painter? You know, this is funny. I was thinking I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm just curious to hear. You know, why paint? I love your work. It's some of my favorite work ever. I love your work. I definitely will have when I get a bigger house, I'm going to buy a piece. But why paint?
Well, it started out for me, it all started out with drawing. I mean, that's the beginning. Even when I was a child, I was always drawing. So I always started out as an artist, as someone who drew pictures, cartoons. Like when I was a kid, I always did like doodles. I would, put my stuff into the paper for the, like you win the best like child cartoonist and stuff like that. So I always had that in me to draw. So when I started to figure out I wanted to become on a larger scale, what I did is that I had saved a lot of books of drawings, and what I did is I took the drawings and then put them on the canvas, actually collaged them. That's how I started. I didn't know how to. I never had taken any formal painting classes and stuff like that. So I started out using the drawings as material to build on the canvas, and then I sort of used paint to fill in the areas, and that's sort of how I started with collage.
Isn't it funny how we? You know, it's interesting. It's kind of what I did initially too when I started to paint on the panels that I painted on, because I was always working on paper, and then to work on canvas. It's funny how we think there's some magic formula. You know, you just
it's just like
art, right? You know.
Yeah, for me. It's never. It's like people talk about like planning and inspiration. For me, it's all about working, and it's all about the process. So I knew that I like to draw, so I knew I had all this material. So I said, I didn't know, like, to start out on a painting with paint right away, for me, was so not foreign that my entrance to painting was to use the drawings as like, okay, now I have all this information on the canvas, and then I started to apply paint. So I used it like, it was almost as if the drawings were their own medium, like their own paint.
Their own little separate thing. So Alvy Shepard is watching, and he first of all says, "Great to meet you, Michael." And he also said he loves to draw. So that's interesting, because I think sometimes people think, okay, so Alvy is this professional athlete, right? And he's like a dude, he's like a serious dude, right? It's a big, tall dude. And people think you have to have some magic to be an artist, but everyone's an artist, right?
Yeah,
Whether you're a professional baseball player,
yeah. It's
Yeah.
all about, for me, it's the process of just making. I mean, I knew I had something as a child. I just knew I was always working with clay. And so that, that was something I always had in me. But to learn, to make, to make the work, it's all about me, especially putting stuff down, making, and making a lot of different things and finding my way into painting. It's like, it's not about like, I'm inspired to make art. It's like, I most of the time when I go in the studio, I'm not inspired. I'm not like, it's work for me. So I have to get in there and start doing stuff. I mean, the only way I can get inspired is by the process of making art. And then what happens is you go into the studio, you might be in the worst mood at all, and then you're making a piece, and all of a sudden it's like, this looks good, and you can feel your endorphins and your serotonin levels change in your body as
Yep.
like I find my way in a painting. I
So
mean,
for
it's all,
me, it's like when you make a commitment to do a project
yeah,
and now you're locked in. So what
yeah,
I started doing was I made a public commitment that I made promises to 13 business owners that I was going to do a painting for each one of them and that there
yeah,
was going to be opening. So now I
yeah.
didn't have that luxury to treat my art like it was a hobby.
Yeah, I mean that's what when I came here, my first year here, I just painted basically, and I showed a little bit. I just walked into a gallery down on Grand Avenue, the Nine Gallery, and sort of like that's how it all started. The Nine Gallery that Laura Dragon owned. I went in there and started talking to her, showed some paintings there, and then got involved at the Grand Art House with the studio here. So for me, it's like I started booking shows. I just, without, and just I started showing my work. And that whole first year was like almost like a lab for me,
Yeah.
learning to paint and showing stuff and looking how people reacted to the paintings and stuff like that. And then I just went for it. I mean, I had some people that I had sold paintings in California and stuff to, wanted to do a show, and I just made my own show. Like I made a show in Los Angeles, which was really successful. One of my first big shows. And basically I found like, we went out there and a friend, we found the place. I gave people art as payment for stuff. I gave them paintings and stuff like that. Made my own art show, and a bunch of people came and bought some work. And then, and that sort of just started. And then after that, I started doing a lot of shows. I mean, I bought a trailer, and I had one of the shows I did. It was literally like you talk about media like Facebook and stuff and Instagram. Someone saw my art on Instagram. Someone in Long Island, and called me up, and we talked on the phone, and I had never met this person. And then she said, "Do you want to come to the Hamptons to do an art show in the summer?" And I'm in Phoenix. I'm like, yes. I just said yes. I had no idea how it was going to
You
happen.
want me to go to Hamptons was 120? Sign
Right.
me
It's,
up, right?
right. I'm going to go to the Hamptons. And this is, I had a successful show in Los Angeles. So I said, of course, yeah, I'll do it. And what I did is that I went and bought a trailer down in Tucson, like a 5x8 trailer, made a bunch of art, spent a lot of money, then drove from Phoenix to the Hamptons to a person I had spoken to her on the phone twice. We had a lot of texts and emails and stuff like that, and went and did a show in her. And she happened to be an art dealer that lived out in the Hamptons, and had a really great successful show out in the Southampton in the summer of 2 years ago. But it was like terror. I mean, that's like, even a show in Los Angeles, I'm framing paintings, I'm doing all this stuff, getting stuff ready, and I'm like running out of money. I'm like, I have no money. And I'm just like, okay, this is going to work. And I'm just like doing stuff saying it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work. And it worked. And it's pretty much, being an artist, you run into that. You have to have a lot of faith, blind faith in your,
You have to be relentless.
yeah, you have to really be relentless.
I mean,
And
and it's funny as you're talking, I'm remembering where my art was developing at the same time. You and I were kind of like on the same, in a different trajectory, but we were both kind of going, well, we've been artists our whole life, so let's just make art. Let's just start making it, And you were in Long Island when I was doing like maybe my second show, and we had the same thing in common. The Nine was the first place that showed my work too, and so has given a lot of people a good start. But
yeah.
there's no formula for this shit. You just kind of go, well, that's a good idea. Let me just throw spaghetti at it and see if it sticks in the wall. And if it's
so many different ways to have shows, and a lot of them are self-created shows where I've got, I'll find a space and do it. I've done things like what's worked out well here is I have some friends that are developers, and they'll build a house. Like we did it last year around this time. They had a house in Paradise Valley, like a $3.5 million really big mansion, and I basically filled it with art. So I used my art and a bunch of artists. I curated it, and then I used a bunch of local artists here, and we filled it up, and they had like an art open house in Paradise Valley, which was great because the people that bought the house bought some art. We wound up selling like 7 or 8 pieces, so that was great. But that's like something that I had no idea if it would work or not, and it just seemed to work.
And then you sell 7 or 8 pieces. I've got a picture of you and your mom from one of the times I came down to the Grand Outhouse or the Art House.
That might have been my first show at.
It was like your first show there, right? I love your mom. Has got to be one of your biggest assets. I mean, come on, let's be real, right?
Yeah.
She's constantly sharing stuff on social media and inboxing me, and I can't ever forget about you because your mom won't let me.
Yeah, she drove me and her. She actually drove to New York because she's from New York too. So we drove out together. We drove from here. It was a great trip. We drove out there. It was like a week to get there. Spent 2 weeks in New York, did the show, and then drove back. I actually, I did another show in New Jersey. I stopped in Nashville to sell some art, and then made us back to Phoenix. But my mom came with me that summer. That was great. That was a great trip.
So Albie is saying from the Peanut Gallery that he wants to see some of your work. So he'll be here in January, actually.
Oh, great.
So in January, we'll make sure that Albie knows where you got work hanging one way or the other so you can see it.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest lesson that you've learned about being in business? I love to ask all business owners that, and this is one of the things that pisses a lot of people off. Not a lot. Okay, there's some people that have a hard time admitting that art is business. And you and I know that if you're going to support yourself, it's a business. If you don't see your art like it's a business, you're not going to make any money, right? You're not going to make it consistently. You're not going to make any money. So what's the biggest lesson that you've learned about being in the business of being an artist?
You never know where sales are going to come from. Like you never know.
Amen.
Yeah, I don't know. You never know. So opportunities can happen from anywhere. And it's like, when I get I invest when people come to see, I show a lot of art here, and this is my apartment right now, but a lot of First Fridays and stuff. I'm have people through here constantly, and I try and spend as much time with them and try and make a connection with the buyer. And even if they don't buy something, I'm trying to invest them because.
Oh, we got a little bit of broken internet. Let's see if we can get them to come back. Come back.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to make it a personal relationship. So I think you just, as an artist, you have to do that dance with the client too. You have to spend some time with the people, be personable. And it can happen anywhere. So really look at all your, as many opportunities you can get to show your art. I think you should do that. And
it's absolutely about creating relationships. Whether you're selling cars, financial services, paintings, films, nutrition, it's all about creating relationships. And I find that, I have several different ways that I make money, and I just meet people. I never know exactly what bucket they're going to fit in. Maybe they might buy a painting. Maybe they're going to come on the radio show as a guest. Maybe they're going to sponsor a show. Maybe they're someone I'm going to interview to feature paintings. I mean, I never know. Maybe there's someone in nutrition. Maybe nutrition. I don't know.
I've had people find me on Instagram all over, I've sold art in all over the United States, Canada. That Instagram's a great tool. I just had a guy, he came here 6 months ago, and he came through on a First Friday, took some pictures, we talked and stuff like that, and he left, and he went away for 6 months, and he just showed up 3 weeks ago, and I wound up, selling him 3 paintings. But it was
awesome.
He remembered, he knew, he liked, but he just wasn't ready to buy. I mean, you have to take any opportunity to show your art, because you never know. People, sometimes they might not have the money, but they come back. And, also, I think it's important to as an artist, to have pieces in all price levels. Because for me, I like to I don't want someone to come into my studio and not be able to purchase something because it's too much. So I always make sure, if you come here, if you want to buy a piece, I'll make sure I can find a small piece that you can walk out with. And I've got students and stuff, a lot of people like that, students and stuff that come that don't have a lot of money, and I'll sell them a piece for $40, $50, because they'll have 6 or 8 of those. That's how much they can spend.
Yeah, and then when those people graduate from school and they start making money, they're gonna come back and buy a bigger piece when they can finally afford
Exactly,
a house, right?
exactly. And they're
Start
investing
creating
in
long-term
me.
relationships.
Yeah, and I want my people to. I love the idea of making it, and like I'm not an artist who's like, I like when my pieces go out in the world. I mean, that's something for me as an
They're like
artist.
babies, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I don't know, like that's a legacy. Like there's pieces that are, I don't know where they are now. I just know they're out there. So that stuff is just going to get continually handed down and stuff like that. And that's a comforting feeling. I really like that. I didn't have that in other businesses, where the idea for me, it's such a pure experience to make something with your hands and then have someone say, I like that. I'm going to buy that. And you're like, okay, well, that came out of my mind. I made it. No one else was involved. It's really a great feeling. It's real.
That's
It's
super.
definitely satisfying. Yeah.
So the over topic today for Relentless Talk Radio is making when you get lemons, make lemonade.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time in your life where you had like a bad experience and you flipped it on its ear and you turned it into a win.
Yeah. Basically becoming an artist was that, I had worked for 27 years in the film business right out of college, and it was a great experience, but I had sort of run my ticket out at it. I had done it for a long time. It was extremely unhealthy for me. Just the hours, the stress, substance abuse problems. And I'm
Yeah,
like 45 years old, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I can't continue to do this because I kept repeating the same behavior, like insanity. I would
right.
go back to this bit, and I was just sort of wearing myself out in it. So I left Los Angeles not knowing what to do. I had been painting already, and I knew I was good at that. So I just said, I'm going to try and do this. And it was almost like, not, working in this one business for so long. I had only these skills as in the film industry. So doing this was like, it was like completely like sort of like my life had been turned upside down. I didn't know a lot of people, so I was starting from ground zero. So I sort of just said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to become an artist. I'm going to become a professional artist. I'm going to make my living doing this. And that's what I just started doing. And I just started, you know, doing it and figuring out ways how to make money and keep myself afloat. And that's what I've been doing for like the last 3 years. I've been able to make a living as a, professional artist. And a lot of times it's frustrating, and it's, it always seems to happen that I feel like, just when I'm going to stop, I'm like, I got to stop. I have to go get another job. I wind up selling enough paintings to get by, and be able, and it seems like for some reason I'm able to continue to do that. And that's sort of just what happened recently. I was like going through one of those, every couple times a year, I'm like, oh man, I got to, you know, I have to find another job and stuff like that. And then I'll sell a bunch of art. But the determination is I just never stop making art. That's all I have to keep in my head, is that, is because I stay sober. Never stop making art. Just continue to make stuff. And that's what I keep doing. I just go into the studio, make stuff regardless of how I'm feeling. Because making art can change a bad day into a good day for me. That's something I learned by doing it, It's like, it's the only thing I think in my life out of all that, and like working in the film industry was great and stuff like that, but I always felt like someone else was controlling my life. I would just literally, on a Thursday, I would be going to Toronto for 6 months. I just never knew what would be happening. There's a lot of self-motivation in this. So sometimes it's difficult, but it's really satisfying when you just, you get up in the morning, you're like, what am I going to do? Studio, make a bunch of stuff.
It's interesting as you're talking, I'm thinking, in business, if you're a salesperson, right, and you are a salesperson when you're an artist, I know artists don't want to think that, but you're selling your art. I mean, you have to sell your stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's the activity that creates the sale.
Yeah.
It's not the clothes. It's every day getting up and doing the activity. So if you're making art, you have to make the art in order to be able to sell it. You got to show the art to sell it. You got to build the relationships to sell it. So if you just make art, build relationships, and show it, eventually, if you keep on doing that, something's going to sell. I mean, what I mean? The law of averages is something's going to sell,
I make a lot of art. I mean, I'm sitting in an apartment that probably has 100 pieces. I've got a show at the Ice House that, I've got like probably an inventory of 160, 70 pieces. And, I show in Los Angeles, I show here, and I just keep, for me, it's like I like to always book shows, like have stuff, because I make new stuff.
It makes you keep working. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't want to build the same pieces. I just want to keep making new stuff because I find different, I've got like 5 or 6 different styles. And they all sort of happen from just trial and error, and then
that's exactly what I do. I
yeah.
decide which shows I'm going to have every year and what the focus is going to be and who I'm going to involve in those shows. So I have more of a social practice way that I work, where I involve people. So for example, this conversation this year, what I'm doing is I'm taking all the conversations I'm having on Relentless Talk Radio, and once a month, I'm going to create a blog that takes all of the conversations from the 4 weeks during the month, and then all of the topics, and then I'll consider it. I'll write a blog, which is like lessons learned, and that blog will inspire a painting. So this time next year, the first Friday, actually, ironically, this week next year, 13 pieces, 12 to 13 pieces in a show somewhere in Central Phoenix, right?
Yeah, that's great.
So if I make that public commitment, now it's out there, and I feel like I made a promise to show people what it looks like to be tenacious, relentless, and fearless, right? So if I don't keep my promises, then what do I got, right? So I make sure that I keep a show always. When I stop one show, I plan for the next one. And the other thing this year is working with 10 charities where I'm gifting a piece and then creating collateral that people can buy to help support the charity. So that makes, I have to make 23 paintings this year.
I mean, I was like, I've probably done this year maybe 15 to 17 shows. I've done like 3 or 4 solo shows, and then the rest were group shows. But right now I have like 3, I'm in a group holiday show at a gallery that reps me in Los Angeles. I've got stuff in another store in Los Angeles. I'm doing a 12 by 12 show here at the Grand Art House, which will be a few pieces. That's this Friday, December 6th.
Right.
First Friday. So the studio will be open. My apartment will be open this first Friday from 6 to 9 at the Grand Art House. So I'm always showing. And then I have a solo show at the Ice House. And with having, and these are like new, most of the stuff are new pieces, stuff I've been making. So I'm always like generating material. And
Michael, you're one of the hardest working painters, period, I've ever met. Like, 2 years, I've been to art school twice. I lived in New York City. I've lived in an artist colony. I've been around painters and artists my whole life. And you literally are one of the hardest working painters I have ever. You make a lot of work all the time.
Yeah,
Say it again?
I feel I have that. That's always been sort of my deals, that I'm sort of, you don't become a good painter by not painting. But so I always feel like whenever I paint, I get better, and I get better by showing. I get better by doing all this stuff. I always want to keep doing stuff. Like for me, showing paintings are great because I watch what people like and I see stuff, and then sometimes I repaint them, because I don't feel like I just, it's that sort of is an intuition type thing. But I'm always like, I'm surrounded by it. I'm always looking at stuff and changing it and trying to make it better. So it's a constant process. And it's like, having the studio right next door and stuff, it keeps me in the game always. It's not like I'm not a 9 to 5 artist where I get up and go at not, I sort of knew that about me, that I needed to live next to my studio. I would be if I had to drive a half hour every day to go paint.
Yeah, I have to have my studio in my house too. Now you've been interviewed by Lux Magazine, LUXE, right? Lux Magazine, and you'll be featured in March. So we just want to let people to keep their eye out for Lux Magazine article.
Yeah, I'll be the featured artist from the March-April issue in 2020, and that was great. And that's something I think they came to someone who works there. I had a show at Mon Orchid last year. It was from September to December, and I think they came to that show, and then they called me in September. I guess they called me beginning of November. So a year later, I get a phone call. So I wasn't talking to anyone; it just happened out of the blue. And that's something that's always in my mind, that I don't know where like a sale, a magazine article is going to come from. I just have to always be out there.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I'm like anyone else. I'm definitely a mercurial and a moody type person. I run like hot and cold. So I have my down periods enough, but I have to go into the studio and make stuff. And I'm not always up and excited. I'm not like, and things like that, but I always try and make myself go paint. And that's, and it's like, that's where it's all about the work and making stuff, and that's all, and showing it and seeing and hopefully someone connects. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. If you keep on getting out there, the law of averages is working in your favor. So,
yeah,
Michael, I have your website on the screen. So it's Michael Viglietta. So for the podcasters, it's Michael, Michael, Viglietta.com, correct?
that's my website, and also you can find me on Viggs, Viggs, Viggs66 on Instagram.
Okay, I'm going to put that on the screen. So Viggs 63?
66.
66.
Yeah, on Instagram. And you'll see that I have tons of work on that. And then my Facebook is just Michael Viglietta.
All right. Well, Michael, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
I know how hard you've worked, and I know as an artist and as an entrepreneur how uncertain it can be sometimes. And for me, people always think that I'm up too because they see me when I'm up, right? But there's days where I'm just so not up, right? I'm having a hard day. I was out with friends on Sunday, and it was just a rough day, and I just had to get into down mode. And one of the girls said to me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, it's just been a rough day, So you don't always have up days when you're an entrepreneur. Some days you have days that are just tough. And, if you're an artist, you can hibernate a little bit, It's kind of the luxury of working for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And making art for me is super spiritual. It's very much an uplifting thing. It makes my soul better when I make things. When I make something that I find, for me, I look at something and I'm happy with it. And it makes me, it's beautiful, and I feel it's beautiful. It makes me feel good. And when someone else connects with it, especially like I've had people come in here and, I like to tell a story about the paintings,
Right.
that's so important. Every painting I can tell you a story about how it was made or what I was going through when I made it and stuff like that. And people connect. And, everyone's got different types of things going on in your life. And I think there's a humanity in making stuff. And when you struggle with certain things in your life and then you put it out there, you make something and put it out there for the world to see. It's like you're letting them into your heart and into your soul, and that's like real personal type. And when that's, it's a real connection when someone likes a painting and finds something to do, they enjoy it and they find a connection with it. It's really satisfying.
Michael, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate you. I love your work.
Thanks for the opportunity. It was really great.
And the next time I see you, I'm going to squeeze your mother first.
My mother's the best.
She was just the best. And she always squeezes me right back when we talk about food for a second, then we get back to you. Thank you so much. I'll probably be down on first Friday, the Phoenix Art Walk on first Friday. I'm going to stop in at the 9 and see the small work show. I like to catch
that one. To the Grand Art House. We have a 12 by 12 small stuff too.
And I'll come in and see you and do a little special edition if I'm down there. Have a good rest of your day, brother.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Michelle.
Take care. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. It's the 49th episode of Relentless Talk Radio is a wrap. And so thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's been a really good episode for me. It's, between Michelle Faust's book that she has coming out called The Lemonade Stand, you get a chance to go to the opening, the launch party for the book. It's at the Blind Pig tomorrow night. You can go ahead and Google The Lemonade Stand. It's on Kindle at this point. And check out Michael and Albie's social media. And I think you'll be inspired by what both of these two very gentle, very strong, very creative, magnificent men have to offer. So thanks a lot, everybody, and have a really good rest of your day. This is Michelle Micalizzi from Relentless Talk Radio signing out. Take care.